Aloha. I'm going to give you an introduction to earth-centered movement. This is an approach of movement that I put together from many years of studying different movement systems. The foundation for all of these systems for me within earth-centered movement is Somatics. And these are the most basic restorative movements that I know of. They are really able to be done by anyone, any age, almost any physical ability. We can modify the movements. Some of them are extremely simple, and then some of them are able to be done more vigorously. Um, so pretty much they're a great tool for kids, adults, elderly, and actually they come from studying animals. So one of the best ways to kind of imagine what these movements look like is that slow um, movement that a cat does when it gets up from its nap and it raises one arm at a time or two paws at a time, arching its back in different directions. So our mammalian structure operates with certain impulses. Some of the impulses are there to protect us, and some of them are there to restore us to a greater state of homeodynamic. So in the protection area, we have the red light reflex, or the fight or flight response, people call it, where the sympathetic nervous system reacts by quickly moving the blood towards the extremities so that our limbs are able to run away from danger. And this causes a release also of cortisol and adrenaline, and that is the way we got here, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of survival of the species. Now, if you imagine one of those nature shows where the deer gets away from the lion, it's going to go under a tree for a while and rest, and when it gets up, it's going to go through a series of movements to restore its nervous system to balance. It's going to go drink water. It really requires that rest phase so that its stress chemicals are rinsed clean and its nervous system is back to a very responsive state. Can you imagine if it was to build up lactic acid and be having workout soreness the next day? It wouldn't be able to get away from the lion the next day. Unfortunately, in the modern technological society, many people fall under the sway or get into a lifestyle of stress. So fear, apprehension, and anxiety are in a way normal and unavoidable life experiences. It can be very subtle things. You may have a worry about something. If you're a student, maybe it's a test. You might be worrying about taking it. You might be worried about waiting for your grades. Maybe there's money worries. Those are anxieties that are not always able to be, put to the side. If you're driving down the road and somebody swerves in front of you, it causes your body to become startled. So sometimes the red light reflex is also called the startle response. It's also called the withdrawal response. All of the things that cause us to kind of, cringe a bit or to pull into ourselves for protection. And because our sensory motor cortex learns, one of the ways it learns is through repetition. If we exhibit this muscular response enough times, our nervous system will remember it, okay? So much the same way you learn how to ride a bicycle through repetition. In the beginning, it's a very choppy experience, but at some point, you develop the knowledge and the ability to ride the bike. And in that moment between the learning and the knowing, there's kind of like this aha, wow, I've got it. And it's in that moment that these instructions that we've been analyzing in the sensory motor cortex, in a sense, they download into our subcortex, into a place that's, we could say, near instinctual, right? That's why they say things like when people are feeling unsure of doing something they haven't done in a long time, their friends will say, oh, don't worry, it's just like riding a bicycle. It's a metaphor that everybody understands. Oh yeah, you can't forget how to ride a bicycle. That's also true with stress contractions. So the red light reflex is a cascading set of neural impulses. It starts in the mouth, Goes to the eyes, the forehead, the shoulders, the chest, the arms, the abdominal wall, the legs, the adductors, and finally the inversion of the feet. So we have a full shortening of the front of the body, okay? And it happens very quickly, in couple hundred milliseconds from the top to the bottom, okay? If that happens enough at some point, and you'll watch this in people's postures and their structure as they age, you'll slowly start to see the front of the body shorten. So the shoulders will round, the head will have to kind of like pitch forward so that you're not always looking at the ground. And these are just physical symptoms that seem possibly innocuous, but the associated stress in the body, the tension in the body affects everything, because the fascia, which is another big part of the earth-centered movement body of knowledge, the fascia is a single unit of tissue. It's not linkages, it's not ropes or cables. It is a substance that has been differentiated throughout your lifetime to give you the shape, to wrap around every bone, muscle, and organ that you have. And the tension in a system doesn't just go to one location. In this context that we're speaking of, it's about, imagine your entire being tensing a little bit. And that's why people, after a long time of living, pick a number, they begin to feel older. And the sad thing about it is that that's actually not what they're feeling. They're not actually feeling age. They're feeling the layered cumulative effects of these habituated contractive patterns. The good news about it, the happy side, is that that's the technology we're working with, that those things are reversible, that these habituated contractive patterns, which are caused by the stress response being repeated, can be undone in a sense. We can relearn how to move from a more fluid and aware place. What we do is, in general, is we mimic the contraction patterns that the stress response produces, okay? We understand that the contraction of the red light reflex is the front of the body, you know, with the arms, with the shoulders, with the chest, and we utilize different movements to firm up or to contract those parts of the body, and we do it by paying close attention with every fiber of our being. The more that we can sense, the more we'll be able to enter into that system, and as we ease it off, we actually will teach ourselves how to relax. So sometimes you'll notice you might have a little bit of tension in your body, and you notice it, and then you intend to relax that area, and you'll be able to. You'll actually feel yourself relaxing your muscles by command. But there's other layers of this tension that are below your conscious control. And that's why Thomas Hanna calls this phenomena sensory motor amnesia. It's where your sensory motor cortex is no longer connected in the way that it needs to be for optimal function. So once we're not able to feel into an area, to sense an area, we're no longer able to control it muscularly. All right, so those are some things I can say about what earth-centered movement is and what somatic education is. And it's a much deeper subject, because for me, movement is life. The more that we're able to move, the more that we're able to feel that movement, and also to be excited about it, to actually generate a sense of enthusiasm and of interest and creativity. Those are actually ways to enter into a learning state, and ways to engage ourselves, our nervous system, that helps us succeed in this area of moving and releasing stress and feeling more alive. We know that our culture demands a lot from us, and part of the result of that is a predominance of people in the sympathetic nervous response. That constant experience of adrenaline and cortisol is really not healthy, and it's difficult to come out of it, partly because of that habituated response. So here we're trying to create some simple methods for bringing that sympathetic nervous tone down, for increasing the parasympathetic nervous tone, the part of the body that helps repair. So we're going to breathe with our nose as much as we can. This has been shown to be the best way to breathe, to create more nitric oxide, to relax the body. We are going to try and train our breaths, because in the sympathetic nervous response, the body, it has a need for more oxygen. And in a true danger condition, it does need more oxygen to run faster away from danger. But in a regular, normal life experience where we're not actually in danger, these sympathetic patterns, this need for more oxygen, it actually creates problems in the long run. So we want to slow that down. We're going to try and time the breathing with the movements. We're going to try and do the movements with as much awareness as possible. So the beginnings of the movements are going to be very slow. They're going to be very basic. So for people who are really athletic or really flexible, or they do yoga, the beginning parts of these movements might be too simple for them, but try and stick with it. For other people who maybe have led, maybe they're not in as much shape, or they're under more stress, or they have an injury, those simple movements might even be challenging. So we're going to start off where everybody can meet, and we're going to advance together. And we're basically going to find that there's basically 3 phases to each movement. And the first phase is that quite simple phase where it feels like nothing. I'm just moving, I'm arching, I'm flattening my back, moving back and forth. It doesn't seem like there's much resistance, but if I keep moving forward, the muscles of my back tighten a little bit more firmly, and I'm starting to feel that resistance, starting to feel like there's something going on, there's more sensation. Okay, and as I go even farther, farther, I approach a point where actually it seems like the end of my capacity in that movement. And so we're going to track phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and we're going to pay attention to each one, because each one of those phases provides us a certain kind of information. So we don't want to just drive all the way into the full expression of the movement. We want to first see what it is that phase 1 feels like. And then we want to really get into phase 2 and feel good about each one, really kind of like wonder about it and see what it can teach you.